Today we're going to learn about different knife cuts in terms of cutting vegetables. You can cut potatoes, carrots, fruit, any kind of root vegetable. For intro, we're going to learn some basic cuts. We're going to start with a small dice, go to a medium dice, and then a large dice. Then we'll look at a julienne cut and a bâtonnet cut. Once we finish with those cuts, my intro students can stop watching. Culinary 1, we're going to move into some more advanced cuts with the poisson, brunoise, rondelle, and oblique. Before you begin, you want to make sure that you prep your vegetables. I have a carrot and a potato that are mostly peeled already, but wanted to demonstrate for you how to finish peeling these if you've never done that before. There are two different tools that you can use. One is a vegetable peeler or a paring knife if you don't have a vegetable peeler. If you use a vegetable peeler, you just want to stand the vegetable up and scoop down, and it will come off in nice little swatches. A lot of people will do this straight over the trash can so that you don't have to worry about making a mess, but for demonstration purposes or in competitions, you may be asked to do it at your station. Notice I've covered the cutting board with some plastic wrap. This keeps the cutting board clean and catches all of the trash, then we can just throw that away. So that's how we would use a vegetable peeler on a carrot. If we don't have a vegetable peeler, then we would simply use a paring knife, brace the end with your thumb, nice gentle strokes. You're going to get a little bit more of the meat of the carrot off when you're paring with a paring knife as opposed to a vegetable peeler. Once you have all of your peel off, I like to cut off the ends, the root end, and the bottom part. Now our carrot is ready. Same thing is true for our potato. We'll use the vegetable peeler. Potatoes are a little bit harder, so sometimes it's a little bit more of a struggle to get it off, but it's the same general motion. Again, you can use a paring knife with a potato. Brace the end with your thumb, very gentle small strokes. We don't want to cut our fingers off and bleed all over our food. Okay, now our potato is ready. Now that our vegetables are ready, I'm going to take the saran wrap and throw it away. Whenever you're not using your knives, make sure they are pointed blade toward the cutting board and off the edge of the counter. The first cut that we're going to start with is a small dice, and I'm going to use part of a potato I've already cut. Obviously, a potato is not perfectly square, so we have to make some straight edges. So I've already started making some edges on this one. You just kind of rotate it until you get a couple of straight edges so it will stand up straight. For this purpose, I'm going to use a ruler because there are very specific dimensions that we have to have for our cuts. If you'll notice, a small dice cut is a 1/4 inch square. So I use my ruler. My 1/4 inch line is there. So I'm going to set my potato up against my ruler, look for my 1/4 inch, and gently cut down. So I've got one side that's a 1/4 inch. I'll simply flip it over to another side. And now my potato is 1/4 inch square. Now I've got to make the actual dice parts, and those have to be 1/4 inch. You'll notice with potatoes, they're a little bit of a starchy product, so they tend to stick together, which is very nice to help you make uniform cuts. So there is our small dice. Medium dice is 1/2 inch. The procedure is just exactly the same. It's just a little bit bigger. We use our ruler, cut a 1/2 inch, cut a 1/2 inch. Now these aren't 1/2 inch square because I had cut it for a 1/4 inch for the small dice, but you get the idea. It would need to be a 1/2 inch square all the way around like this one is. Large dice is 3/4 inch square. So again, we'll have a couple of flat sides already. We'll come up to our ruler, make another straight side, go to 3/4 inches, make a cut, flip, and make a cut. And we have a large dice. So that's how we do a dice. If you remember back from class, we talked about the reason why we want to make sure that our cuts are uniform is because it helps them to cook more evenly. We won't have some pieces in our soup or stew that are tough because they haven't cooked all the way through, and some that are mushy because they cook too fast. All right, our next cut is a julienne cut. It is a 1/8 by 1/8 by 2 inches long. So we're gonna look at our length first. And this piece will just barely get us to 2 inches. So we're long enough here, right straight in the middle. So I'm just gonna cut off my edges. A 1/8 inch is very small. That is the first line on our ruler. So we're gonna line it up and cut. And again, you'll notice that the starch sticks, so it allows me to get my even cuts. I'm going to turn it over and cut into 1/8 inches. So there is your julienne cut. Bâtonnet cut is again very similar to that. It is 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. The length is a little bit different. It's 2 to 2.5 inches long. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of cut this potato at 2.5 inches. I'm going to square it off so that I have some edges here. It's still a little big to deal with, so I'm just going to kind of cut it in half. I don't need something quite that big. So 1/4 inch. I'm going to square off this end so I can do it up to my ruler. 1/4 inch. 1/4 inch. So 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. Almost. We'll just end that right here. 2.5 inches long. That's actually 1/2 inch, excuse me. So we're going to cut it in half and make it 1/4 inch. There, now we have our bâtonnet. So intro, this is where you can stop watching. If you look at your assignment, I want you to practice this with either vegetables that you have at home or some Play-Doh, some clay, or if you want to simply cut them out of paper. Just make sure that your dimensions are the same. Use a ruler, take pictures, and upload them to Google Classroom.